Me and my wife, we do travel, doing children's evangelism. She is the Wednesday night coordinator for WOW, and here at our church, so she handles all our Wednesday night stuff. So today, our goal is to encourage you and remind you that what you do every Sunday and every Wednesday night matters. Today, we're going to be talking about burnout. And I know that it's a sensitive subject because in ministry, we shouldn't experience it, right? You know, we hear the verses, the joy of the Lord is our strength, and we can do all things through Christ. And even though those are our mottos, the reality is we're all human. The one thing we have in this room common is that we are all flesh and blood. So we're going to experience burnout occasionally, or what we consider burnout, just being weary and tired. So we're going to talk about it today and hopefully conquer it with some biblical burnout busters. My wife came up with that little tagline.
I love alliteration.
So anyhow, we're going to mention various stages of burnout, starting with the critical stage and work our way down to being just a little weary. So some signs and symptoms if you're feeling burned out. Most likely it's because you're not getting the results from your efforts. You end up feeling like a hamster on that wheel, just running but never really getting anywhere or accomplishing anything. And you know, you may not be in that stage yet where you're just ready to throw up your hands and quit. But if some of these things we're fixing to talk about right now describe you, it won't be long until you get there. How about a lack of motivation? That is one thing that will lead to burnout for sure. Discouragement due to perfectionism, when what you're doing is either not good enough for you or good enough for the person that you're working with. Those can lead to burnout. Too big of a load or an extended period of being the one-man show. And I think a lot of us probably experience that at times. We need help. Constantly being unprepared. And this can be for a variety of reasons. No vision, no direction, a lack of resources. All of these things are keys that funnel us into that feeling of burnout. What about never delegating? It's hard to delegate for my wife. If you don't want to impose on others because you want things to be done your way or you want them to be done right. Remember that Jesus was a delegator. He had 12 disciples. He sent out 72 apostles. Jesus was a delegator. He built a team, and that's why we're here today, is because he was a good delegator. And we want to be like Jesus, right? That's our goal. So if one of these describes you, we need to admit it, we need to work on it, and then we can find a solution. Okay, love?
Yes. Okay, take it away. So, when I was studying for my part of the session, I found some applicable biblical examples of what people did when they were overwhelmed. There's a lot of people in Scripture that are overwhelmed. So we can look to those instances and get a lot of insight. The feeding of the 5,000. We have all no doubt taught this story from every possible angle. It's one of the best. It's one of the only miracles that's in all four Gospels. So I was listening to this story in my devotions this week, and I heard it in a completely different way because I had this topic in my mind. So I want to share it with you today. It is actually, what I heard was, this is a template for what to do when you are overwhelmed. First was the main problem, feeding thousands of weary people. The disciples' solution was to send the crowds into the city. They're tired, they've been here all day, just let them go find their own food. And Jesus shut that down. Matthew 14, verse 16, he said, no, that's not necessary, you're going to feed them. The second problem then presented, which was the lack of resources. And they responded back, but we only have 5 loaves and 2 fish. How can this isn't enough. So Jesus took they brought that to Jesus. Jesus took what they gave him. And verse 19 says, he took them, looked up to heaven, and blessed them. Another translation says he gave thanks. So think about this for a minute. He gave thanks when there wasn't nearly enough. It might be the equivalent to one of us teaching 100 students, and all we have are 2 bottles of glue and 1 pack of construction paper for 6 months. I mean, it's probably, I don't know. That's the best I could come up with. But you get it. That just not enough. Not enough help. Not enough resources. But he still gave thanks for the deficiency, the shortage, the lack. Thank you for this that I have in my hand, that you have brought to me. Thank you for this. And then the miracle happened, the blessing and the multiplying. So after he blessed it and multiplied it, he gave it back to the disciples and said, now you go out on the mission and you provide, feed them. So he didn't complain. He gave thanks for the deficiency, sent them out, and the disciples distributed it to the people. Then verse 20 says, they all ate as much as they wanted and afterward picked up 12 baskets of leftovers. So here's the template. The disciples identified the problem. So first, identify your problem. Second, the disciples brought what they had to Jesus. So next, bring your problem to Jesus in a specific request. Next, Jesus gave thanks. So give thanks for what you have, even if it's a minuscule amount compared to what you need. Fourth, Jesus sent the disciples into the crowd to complete the mission. So he again delegated the task of feeding all the people. He did not do it all by himself, and he's God.
Right.
So if he sent out others, how much more? He does his part, and then he sent out workers to do the rest. So we need to follow that example and do that as well. He had a team. We need teams. Finally, they collected the leftovers, stored the abundance. Nothing was wasted. So for this could, our equivalent would be celebrate the blessing and be good stewards with what he has given you. Now, if you truly lack help and there is no one in sight, not even a glimmer of hope, we've got a biblical example for that too. Moses, he was overwhelmed in Numbers 11. So that prayer is shocking. When he is fussing, he's vulnerable. He says, Lord, did I give birth to all these people? What in the world am I supposed to do with all these people? This is, in fact, in verse, the load is too heavy. Verse 15, just go ahead and kill me. I think Moses was overwhelmed. He was burned out. So the Lord is funny. He did not even acknowledge all of that carrying on. He just said, Moses, I've got a solution for you. Gather 70 men who are leaders, bring them to me, and I'm going to take that spirit, some of that spirit that's on you, and I'm going to distribute it. Again, we see the delegating.
Yeah.
I think this keeps coming up because I need to do that. I need to do that. I need to follow my own advice. So just as Moses did, if you have too big of a load, pray this prayer. Lord, you've put me in this position. I cannot effectively do this ministry in my current situation. So you did it for him. You can provide help for me so that I can share the responsibility that you've put on me. By praying this biblical example of how God provided resources or help with the right spirit, you are showing God that you have faith and confidence because he moved in that situation. He is going to move for you too.
Yeah, that's good. Why do we feel it? Why do we feel burned out? If we're called and we are anointed, it's because it's connected to our human emotions. There's no amount of spirituality that's going to change us being human. God made us, each one of us, with a threshold for responsibility and stress, and the stress that comes with it. He did not intend for you or I or any of us to carry any burden all alone. We always need to rely on him, and sometimes we need others. But you know what is so funny is he will let us flounder. He'll let us flounder until we just quit. If we continue to try and carry the burden on our own. If you feel burnout now or you're getting close to it, we've got to address it. We don't prolong it we don't prolong the overwhelming feelings with statements like, I can do it, I'll be okay. I've done that so many times. Oh, it'll be okay, it'll get better in a few weeks. Because most of the time it doesn't. Are statements like, there's no one else to do this, so I have to do it. Have y'all ever been there? Are you there now? There's no one else that can do this, so I have to. This is well-meaning, but stubborn persistence will eventually lead to you quitting. And a lot of times, that quitting can lead to you just being so discouraged that you walk away from the Lord. And that's something that none of us want. So we've got to fix that, right? How can we get rid of this? You know, working in children's ministry, all of us go through seasons where we feel like we've got it all under control, we're doing well, we're on a high, and then all of a sudden it can be just 2 weeks later because of things going on in work or in our life, and now we're down here thinking, I really think I'm going to have to give this up. But it's all connected to the human emotions. So what if we're doing what we're doing for our children's ministry and it's not enough? What if we're showing up late every Sunday? We're reading our lessons instead of it coming from the heart. Throwing animal crackers on a plate and just counting the minutes until the parents come back and get the teachers or get the kids. It's then time for us to address the situation. And I realize that sometimes that's out of our control. There are times when you get called the night before and say, hey, I'm sick. Can you cover my class? And so you're thrown in there at the last minute, or even worse, right before you get to church on Sunday, somebody doesn't show up and you're asked to come step in. Those should never, those are understandable, but it should not be a weekly occurrence that you are showing up late. If this is the pattern, you are in critical burnout mode now. How do we fix it? We address the frustrations of being overwhelmed, just like Moses did, by praying specifically for what your need is in the current situation that you're in.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna take just a few minutes and talk about something very practical, because classroom management, if the children are out of control, that's a big frustration builder that can cause burnout when you feel like, I don't know how to manage all of these children. So I do have a handout in your, I hope it's there, that is effective ideas for Sunday school classroom management. They're very simple. I'm not going to go over those. They are so simple that you might be inclined to think these don't work. They're just too simple. But I have done all of the things on that list. In fact, I have the class I usually teach is about that. And I've had measurable success, even with very challenging behavior, with those tips on that handout. But I do want to talk about a new program that we just started last fall. Like you said, I'm the Wednesday night coordinator, and we call it WOW, Worship on Wednesdays. So after 30 years in ministry, I had never taught on Wednesday nights and only taught on Sunday morning. You Sunday morning teachers have it easy, because Wednesday night is wild. They are tired. They've been in a classroom all day. They don't want to be still. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Yes. So I was like, all these things I do on Sunday morning that are just wonderful are not working exactly as well. They're working, just not as well as I want them to. So I began researching to, I thought about school teachers. They have, way more children all day long by themselves. What do they do? How do they manage children? How do they keep them engaged? And what I kept finding were incentive programs. They were widely used and highly recommended. So on Pinterest, I found several, and I just built my own from lots of pieces because I had to adapt it to the Sunday school setting. So it is called the Cool Beans Program, and I'm going to quickly, and we are changing it up. So every quarter, like this quarter just started, and I'm doing stars, be a star, but I went ahead and used the jelly beans, because that's what we started with. So every Wednesday night when the children come in, they get a lanyard, and they have 3 jelly beans in their lanyard. And this evolved. It didn't work. It evolved. Long story short. So we ended up 3 jelly beans in a lanyard. The object is for them to keep their jelly beans, not get them taken away. They can cash them in, but they don't want them taken away. How do they get taken away? By not following the rules. And I think the rules that I have are there in your handout. So normally I've got 2, we have a chalkboard, and then we have a standing, what are those called? Whiteboard. Dry erase, thank you, with the cash-in options. So they know the rules are posted there, and then throughout the class time, they can turn in a jelly bean, they can cash a jelly bean in for a privilege on there. And it has worked amazingly well. The first time we did it, I got up, I just explained the program. I said, okay, kids, this is new. This is what we're going to do. And all we did was practice. I did a short story. I said, we're going to practice transitioning, because that was a big problem for us, transitioning from the lesson room into where we have snacks and craft. And I said, okay, who wants to be the line leader? We lined up. We went in there. We sat down. We came back. We did it 2 or 3 times. It's like, this is how I want you to do it. We're going to practice it. So tell them what you expect and practice. And then, oh, look, you get to keep your jelly bean. You stayed in your line. You sat down, and they were so excited. They went home. Parents were contacting me. My kids were talking about this jelly bean thing. And so it has done wonders for behavior, but also it's teaching them. Because at the end of the night, so they keep their jelly beans, or they cash them in for, if they want a reward right then. Whatever jelly beans they have at the end of the night, I punch their card, so they get a punch for every jelly bean they have. Now, what I'm going to have to do, what we started with was a lollipop at the end of the night. I bought some sugar-free lollipops. They had xylitol in them, so it's actually good for their teeth. I thought the parents would appreciate that. And they were all cashing their jelly beans in for lollipops. So they didn't have a whole lot of punches. Well, I ran out of lollipops, and now they're having a lot of punches. And so they're going through these cards pretty quickly. When they fill out the card, they get a big prize that we've gone to Five Below, and they can go shopping at the prize table. So it's like, I need to bring the lollipops back, because I'm going to go bankrupt paying for the prizes. So,
what did you say was in the lollipop?
Xylitol.
I thought you said Tylenol.
Oh, no, xylitol. I'm sorry.
Tylenol pill.
It's a safe sweetener, I think, but it's good for your teeth. No Tylenol. No, we're not drugging the children. So, yeah, I need to bring the lollipops back. But amazing program. I highly recommend it. If you don't like this one exactly, go on Pinterest. You'll find lots of incentive programs. And they want to keep those jelly beans. And it makes disciplining very easy. Because when they don't follow the rule, bring me it. In fact, I'll use their daughter as an example. She's so precious. I love her so much. So she was dangling her feet Wednesday night. She had a crock on, and she kicked it, and it went flying like 15 feet up in the air, just almost hit the ceiling. And she looks, and she's like, oh, I kicked off my shoe. My shoe fell off. And I said, Faithlyn, you kicked your shoe off. Come bring me a jelly bean. Yeah, okay. And anyway, it was just, so that's all you have to do, just bring me a jelly bean.
But she loves that program. Like, she'll come home and she'll say, I can't wait for a wow. I'm like, wow, what do I do? Wow, we get jelly beans.
Yes.
We get jelly beans.
Yes, yes.
It definitely works.
It works.
Yeah.
It works. And they love to help, so they cash them in. They want to be helpers. But, okay, last thing that I know I've gone way over. I'm sorry, babe. This teaches them two things. It helps with behavior, but also it teaches them instant gratification. Like, oh, I get this. I can get a reward right now if I cash it in. Or delayed. I'm earning the big prize. Some of them, that was a tough lesson. When they were 1 or 2 away at Christmas break, and I was giving a bunch of big prizes away because a bunch of them got cards filled up at the same time, and they were crying, but I'm just 1 punch away, Sister Jennifer. And well, honey, you remember all those times you were the snack helper, and you cashed it in, so you got a prize. Next time, think about that. You may want to save it for a big prize. So, teaches a lot of things. We love it. Okay, take it away.
All right, so there's a new program y'all can implement next week. Anybody in here frustrated with your teaching? I know that in this room we have natural teachers, and then we have people that are learned teachers who learn how to teach over time. But regardless of either one of these groups, they can both experience frustration. In fact, this is something that actually me and Corey's been talking about here recently. I mean, for the last few months, it's something that we want to focus on in Kids View, because it's like we're not making the connection that we used to make even 6 months ago or 8 months ago. And so we've got to fix that. I don't want to just teach a good lesson. We want lessons that are impactful, lessons that the children respond to. We've got down teaching good lessons, but it doesn't do any good if we teach a good lesson and there's no response. So if you feel like your teaching is not getting through, we've got 3 acronyms here. ACT. We all can remember that because that's ACT.
One acronym, 3 letters.
One acronym, 3 letters.
There we go.
So A stands for assess the situation and write down clear objectives. In other words, how do you want the children to respond to your teaching? Do you want more interaction with the kids? Or do you need to improve on keeping their attention? Think about what you want. Write it down. If you don't write it down, I'm horrible. I'll come up with all kind of good thoughts during the day, and if I don't write them down, in 3 hours, I'm sitting there thinking, what in the world was I just thinking about? It was so good. And they're always the greatest when you forget them. C stands for commit to an adjustment process. If you have figured out what you need to do, or if you've come up with 2 or 3 different plans, you've got to commit to an adjustment process. We all have unique teaching styles, okay? So I'm not suggesting that you change your teaching style. So don't think that I'm saying that right here. We all have unique teaching styles, and God gave us those unique teaching abilities. So we don't want to try to teach like somebody else.
Right.
If I tried to teach like Brother Lloyd Squires, nobody would be entertained. Well, y'all might be entertained. But I don't think it would be effective. The kids would. It wouldn't be near as effective as he can do it.
Right.
So use the style that the Lord gave you, but He may want you to expand that ability a little bit. Maybe you're in a rut. Maybe you need to change up what you're doing a little bit. Pray specifically for direction while you're exploring curriculum, while you're exploring ideas. There are endless resources online for teaching lessons, teaching advice. So start searching for a solution while you're praying, and God will direct you. I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times I have prayed for something, and you're on the internet, and all of a sudden, boom, there it is. The Lord provides.
Yes.
So, T stands for try until you get the winning combination. The first thing you try may not work. She tried the jelly bean thing 2 or 3 different times until she got it right. Get it right, perfect it. and then it'll make your job so much easier. So you want a solution that works with your style, that will give you the results that you are looking for. So keep searching until you find it.
Yes. Doing this exercise with the word ACT is a wonderful way to pinpoint specifically what you need to focus on. Once you have assessed and written down your objective, now you have a goal. And once you have a goal, you have a plan. I've got to achieve this goal. How am I going to do that? I have to have a plan. Well, a plan to get to a goal gives you motivation. And motivation is the enemy of burnout. What slide am I on? Oh, there we go. So think about it. When you are drained and weary and tired, everything is a chore.
Right.
It's like walking through water. I mean, you just don't want to do it. You're not motivated. You're drained, you're weary. But when you are motivated, that changes. I can think about when I'm doing a creative project. There's some nights I don't want to go to sleep. It's like, oh, I can't wait to get up in the morning and do, and so I'll wake up and check my phone. Oh, it's 2:30. Okay, go back to sleep. I'm motivated. So motivation is the enemy of burnout. When I took over as the WOW coordinator, we restructured it completely. And like I said, Wednesday teaching was new to me. So I had to do some research. I thought, okay, I want to change this. I'm assessing, I'm doing A, I'm assessing the situation, pinpointing what I want to change. And I did C, I was committed to change. But T, I had to try a few things. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. So one of the first things we did is I took the team on a field trip. We went to Center First, the UPC Church in Center. They have a fantastic children's program led by the Haleys. And they graciously let us observe. We asked a multitude of questions. We have 25 to 30 students on Wednesdays, and they have sometimes 80. So I thought I want to see how they manage this many children and what they do. Their curriculum was very unique as well. Lisa shared that with me. So after this, I searched out some different curriculum because I knew that style wasn't going to work for my teaching style. So here I am doing T. I'm trying different things, and I've used Group before. Group is a huge publishing company. If y'all have, surely y'all are familiar with Group. If not, they're amazing. We use Pentecostal Publishing House on Sunday morning. They've come a long way. Didn't use their curriculum in the past, but we do use it now. But for Wednesday nights, this is the one I kept coming back to. It's Simply Loved, and I've got a copy up here if y'all want to look through it later. Everything you need is in this box. I'll get to supplies in a minute. For digital, you can do a digital version, but this has DVDs. We have an old computer. It's got a DVD. It posters, it's just wonderful. Sometimes with PPH you have to print a bunch of stuff, and that's just kind of, I like this. I like this. This is simple. And the things that they use for the beginning of their lessons are things like paper clips and crepe paper and rubber bands, just really simple things. And what they have the children doing with those things is awesome. So I highly recommend this if you want to look at it. Now I do modify it because it's written for a big group. So they divide their class into crews, and everybody has a crew guide, and we're not that big, so I don't need that. And also it's very whole, what's the word? They want the whole class to participate in the lesson. Everybody, let's pack our lunch. Everybody stand up. We're going to go feed David's brothers in the army. And I'm not going to have 18 children traipsing around. I'd lose control. So I call 2 or 3 of them up. They cash in a jelly bean. They get to come up. They get to be used in the lesson. And just a couple of them participate and act out what I'm teaching. So that's, if you get to a lesson and it's like, really, the whole class do this? Maybe on Sunday morning you could do that in a smaller class, but in a bigger setting, I recommend breaking it down using just a few children, and that will help you manage your classroom as well. So if you want to check that out, it is available right there for you to look through. I think I'm done with that
You
part.
are.
Okay.
So if you haven't discovered it yet, she's giving you all the practical advice.
Yes.
The fun stuff. Another confidence crusher is feeling like you're not being effective. But I want to encourage you this morning that you are making a difference. Every coloring page, every snack, every action song, it makes a difference. But this is where the enemy will sneak in and try to minimize the value of what you're doing. He'll plant thoughts like you're wasting your time. This is just a simple craft. Or I've taught on David a dozen times. I bet these kids are sick and tired of that story. And these thoughts are from Satan. He doesn't want the children learning about Daniel standing up to a foreign government, or Noah's obedience to build the ark, or David's courage to take on a giant. He knows the value of us teaching things over and over again, reinforcing the lessons with crafts and action songs. You and I are in a battle for every single one of those souls each and every week. So the next time you're gluing a little white cotton ball on a piece of paper, you can say, devil, you see this right here? This cotton ball is making those children realize that the blood of Jesus can make their sins as white as snow. It's getting through. You see, what you do for each children is not in vain. Through all the wiggles, the activities, they are picking up more than you might realize. One mother shared a story. She asked her little boy what he learned in Sunday school today, and he said, well, we learned how Moses went behind the enemy lines on a rescue mission to get the children of Israel out of Egypt. And when they got through the Red Sea, Moses had the army come up and build a bridge across the ocean. And then when they got across to the other side of the ocean, he called up backups and had them blow up the bridge so that nobody else could cross it. And the mother said, son, is that stuff really in the Bible? The little boy said, no, not really, but if I told you what she really said, you really wouldn't believe it. You see, this story, what an imagination.
Yeah.
You know, when I heard it, I thought, you don't come up with a story like that and interject all of that unless you're paying attention. Notice he said that she wouldn't believe it, but I think the little boy believed it. You see, children they have the purest faith. They believe that God can do anything. And you know what? You and I are fortunate that we are the ones that get to witness a child's faith each and every week. There's no doubt that you're being effective. Just start, when you get through with a lesson, you start asking a few review questions, and I bet it will astound you the answers and stuff that you get back from these kids.
I love asking review questions. That's so funny. It does amaze you. This happened even Wednesday night. Just amazing. Okay, so he talked about how the devil will, the mind games and all the discouragement that he brings. But you know what? Don't you diminish your significance. Sometimes we don't need Satan to
Right.
damage our mental health. We can do that on our own. So remember that Jesus was a teacher, the greatest teacher, and he captivated crowds because no one had ever heard teaching like that. It was new, the stories and the parables. And that's how we teach. We teach like Jesus with the stories. So that they can learn, so that it's relatable, so it's practical. So when you teach, you are being like Jesus. You are called to teach. I know we're volunteers. We volunteer. But you can have a volunteer mentality and just, I'm just volunteering. And that can lead to a dark place. So change that. No, I am called to do this. Maybe it started out as a volunteer. That was me. I started out, I'm just doing what my pastor asked me to do. I'm going to go help. I'm going to go sit in here with the Evans, who are teachers extraordinaire. They're back there. And it turned into, many years later, it's like, this is a gift. The Lord gave, I am called to do this. And that totally changed my perspective. Totally. So I have a positive little reminder here that I read in a blog called Kid Men Mama. She said, you've probably heard of D.L. Moody, the famous evangelist, but have you heard of Edward Kimball? He was D.L. Moody's Sunday school teacher. He actually led Moody to the Lord. If Edward Kimball had not been obedient to his calling to teach, what would have happened to Moody? Who would have told him about Jesus? Sunday school teachers are like Kimball. They tend to be no names in the Bible. They are the people in the stories who go unnamed but play vital roles. They are Naaman's servant girl, or the four friends who helped the paralyzed man be lowered through the roof. We are the child with the 5 loaves and 2 fish.
Right.
We are the people that are unknown but well known because of the impact that we make.
Right. It's good. So my final piece of advice is be persistent. Don't burn out before the breakthrough. Most entrepreneurs, inventors, authors, creative geniuses, they all have a similar kind of story. It goes something like this. His name was Theodore Geisel. In his late 30s and 40s, Theodore had a dream to publish children's book. He took his book by an estimated 40 different publishers, but no one would print his work. Yet he didn't give up. He went to door after door, shop after shop, and he kept knocking on doors until finally one publisher, the one that appreciated his unique storytelling, said yes. Theodore Seuss Geisel went on to author more than 60 books that have sold more than 600 million copies, and we know him as Dr. Seuss. Be persistent.
His contribution to not just children's literature, but literature is, you can't even, it's just massive. So if the Lord, and why would nobody publish him? Because he was so unique. No one had seen that style before, his very unique gift. So maybe you have an idea of something to change, something to do, and it's like, well, I don't know, this is pretty different. If you've got your pastor's permission and you feel like that's the direction the Lord is leading you, do it. You could be the next Dr. Seuss in children's ministry.
That's right.
Step out. So also, don't discredit one small change. Because small changes can make a big difference. One volunteer that just agreed to start helping could end up transforming the whole team.
Right.
He mentioned struggling with the class and feeling like making a connection, and how sometimes that's difficult. We have an example of a small change that I think they did make this change. A couple years ago, we were at a church and they had a lot of children. It's a big church, and it was a very long and narrow room where they had Sunday school classes with nice big rooms, but their children's church room was very long and narrow. And so there's probably 20 rows of chairs. Well, only the first 2, maybe 3 rows of children were engaged. From 3 back, they can't hear, they can't see. You could see them. They had no clue what was going on. No clue. And so we made it through our portion of the special event. But when we were talking about it on the way home, it's like, if they would just turn their chairs this way, they've got all the width they need to do this. And then now you've only got 2 rows, a huge semicircle, and they can all see, they're all very engaged. That's a little change that would make a huge impact.
Yeah.
So don't discredit small change. Think outside of the box. And also break the me cycle. When we are stressed and burned out, we focus on ourselves. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I need this or that. My resources are low. No one's helping. No one's volunteering. Me. So in closing, I have this comparison. Have you ever had baked Alaska? I have not. I'm not a fan of meringue, but it looks delicious. You can, there's so many layers of awesomeness going on. I like the inside. You can customize each layer. There's a layer of cake and then a couple layers of ice cream. And then there's this fluffy meringue that's smothered on top, and it gets caramelized with a blowtorch. So the recipes I was looking at, they all said easy to make. And I was like, how is it easy to light ice cream on fire and not have it turn into a runny mess? Hence the need for the meringue. The fluffy whipped topping takes the heat and protects the delicate ice cream center. The meringue has a specific purpose. Without it, there is no baked Alaska. You are the meringue. You have a specific purpose. Lucifer had a specific purpose in heaven. And when did he stop fulfilling his purpose? When he began to focus on himself.
Right.
If we focus on ourselves to a fault, we can lose sight of our purpose. So when you are discouraged and you notice your focus has shifted, remember the baked Alaska and that delicious, gorgeous meringue that I don't like, and say, that is me.
Yes. You see, God has put us in a position to reach His children. These are God's children, and we get to teach them about His Word. We get to be a part of the most important experience that they will ever experience when they receive the Holy Ghost. We've given some practical advice, but the simple truth is if our relationship with the Lord is not strong, it's going to be tough. Our personal relationship with the Lord, when it is strong, we rely on His strength. We should have joy, right? For teaching that doesn't make sense because we should be too busy to volunteer every Sunday morning or commit to this level. But if our prayer life is strong, then we will be strong. We won't be stressed, depressed, because the Lord is working in us and using us, and we can feel it. So, we leave our classrooms each and every Sunday morning knowing that God is on our side and that He is helping us. So in summary, follow the feeding of the 5,000. It's a template for us to overcome the feeling of being overwhelmed. Identify your problems, write them down, and work towards a solution that will spark motivation. Remember your significance. Be persistent. You could just be one small change away from a breakthrough. These are keys that help overcome that feeling of being burned out. Remember, when you do it for them, you're doing it for Him.
Yes.
So, love, do you want to tell them about praying or wanting something from the Lord? And
Oh, Charlie?
yeah, you want to tell them about Charlie?
Oh, okay.
You got how many minutes? What time is it?
8 minutes.
Okay. You got 8
Okay,
minutes.
so now that we have told y'all how to be specific and pray for specific things, and I have a testimony that kind of contradicts that. It's still good. Do everything we said to do. But sometimes God just does His thing. It's amazing. So about 10 years ago, I think, I don't know, we were redoing our Sunday school wing into a castle theme. And I'm also a painter. So I was sitting down on the couch. It was a Monday afternoon, and I had in my mind exactly, I was planning out all the rooms. I had a vision. I knew what they wanted to do. I was motivated, very motivated. And I wanted a tree in our foyer. Now, we have a very low ceiling in there. It's not even 8 feet tall. And these trees that I had in my mind were big and grand. I could only do so much. So I'm looking at these pictures, Worlds of Wow. They're a professional decorating painting company. All these other places that had these amazing trees, exactly what I had in my mind, but I could not figure out what they were made out of. I'm like, what are these trees made out of? They're cartoonish, but they're perfect. They're smooth. They're just gorgeous. And foam, I knew how to do stuff with foam, but they were too dimensional to be, I was like, I'm going to do paper mache because that's all I know how to do. I'm just going to get the flour, dip it in this. It's going to be a mess, but that's what I'm going to do, and I'll sand it down, paint it, make it slick. That's just what I'm going to do. So the next day, I'm leaving Hobby Lobby, and I get a phone call. It's from one of our pastors here who was on staff at the time. Brother Kelly calls me, and he says, Sister Jennifer, there's a man here that says he has some stuff that we can use. And I said, okay, what? He said, I don't know. He said he has a bunch of stuff that we can use. He wants to donate to the church, and I thought maybe you could use it for Sunday school. I said, okay, well, what is it? Well, it's some kind of foam. I said, okay, so I've only got 15 minutes. I've got to go pick up my kids from school. I'm kind of, so I go to the church, and I'm thinking he wants something. This, he's going to just donate stuff, this random guy. So I walk in, and I meet Charlie Slater.
Slater.
And he starts talking about, the stuff he has. And I said, okay. He said, you're redoing your Sunday school. So this is going to be great. You need this stuff. And I still am suspicious. I'm like, what? What? You're just going to give this to us? He's like, yeah, I'm just going to give it to you. He said, I was driving around the loop. My wife works in Lufkin, and the Lord told me to pull off into the parking lot and go into that church because there was somebody in there that needed what I had. And I said, okay, what is this foam? And he starts doing pictures. And he's like, look, it's this. And I said, well, what? He said, I do this. I've worked for Nickelodeon and Disney and Absolute Vodka billboards. He did the vodka bottles. So I said, well, is that what? He said, it's foam. You can do anything with it. And I said, can you make trees with it? And he's like, yeah, trees like this. And I said, yeah, trees exactly like that. And he's like, I've got it. I'll give it to you. And so we loaded up, we took a trailer, we went to Apple something, and Apple Springs, is that a nearby town? Okay, so we went there and loaded up a trailer full of free foam and redid and I was like, Lord, I didn't even I didn't even know what it was. And you just literally drove off the loop and said, here it is. I was like, wow.
So this guy used to work for Disney. He is the creator of the Bumblebee, the Transformers. The Lord saved him, and he left all of that behind to just work in children's ministry. Actually, Brother Lloyd Squires, they hooked up somehow. Brother Squires gave him his first bus, this Charlie guy, and prayed him through with the Holy Ghost. This dude is phenomenal. He has an amazing testimony, and everywhere he goes, he's reaching for children out in the parks. I mean, it's just. But the Lord just spoke to him one day driving through the loop. So when you pray specific prayers,
well, I hadn't.
She didn't pray a specific prayer, but
the Lord knew what was. He knew what I specifically.
But verbalize it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, thank you guys. I hope y'all got a little bit from today, and I know y'all can do it.
Yes.
You've got it in you.